is the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast, bringing you the third time trying to start the show. It is the Houston Open this week. Boring Valspar. Kenny Kim, what's cooking?
Nothing much. I'm reading this thing on X right now about this murder locally about a guy who was a professional cornhole player who has no arms and no legs, and he just murdered somebody by shooting.
It was a drive-by. It was a drive-by.
Like, how does that happen? I need to read this article after this because this is the craziest thing. Like, I'll just flip, Byron's been having some issues, some tech issues, as we've getting this show started. And I'm just flipping through X and I'm like, full amputee, professional cornhole player arrested for murder for shooting somebody. The wildest headline I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the investigation is in limbo.
It's actually near me. This is like right outside of DC. I have no idea how this happened. It's an incredible headline. But anyway, I'm sorry to start the show off this way, but I saw it and it was just insane. Insane. No arms, no legs, professional cornhole player shoots somebody to death.
Hey, I mean, was he getting thrown at the boards or like what?
I got to read the article later. I have no idea.
Incredible. Incredible. For those of you signing up to DraftKings, please use code FGD. The show is sponsored by those amazing people over there. We'd really appreciate that. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We are without Mike, and as a result, mics aren't working, video cameras aren't working, but it is what it is. We're going to rough it out here. It's the Texas Open. We're going to go balls to the wall, baby. Arms and legs included. And it's going to be a fun one. So, Kenny, you just crashed another winner. Back-to-back outrights, baby. You're cooking.
Yeah, back-to-back. I haven't done that in a while. It was nice. Like, ever since I started just going, like, gut feel. Like, it worked the last couple of weeks. Cam was, like, one of my first clicks. If you check my X feed for the players, I've been doing the first click every Monday morning at, like, 6:30 in the morning. When the each way numbers come out in the book I use. I just been going, you know what? I'm just going based upon what I've seen and what I felt. And it's worked the last 2 weeks, right? Cam was one of those and Fitz was one of those, last week as well. It was not the most exciting tournament, I would say. That final round, felt like nobody wanted to win. Fitzy just held on and did his thing while everyone was imploding around him. I mean, I think it's the first time since 2013 a golfer has won an event going bogey-free on Saturday and Sunday. That's impressive stuff from Fitz. We've all seen him play this year leading up to it. I think the majority of people will say, a win was coming. I know people didn't want to bet the 18-1. I took the 28-1 with the 3 places. So it's nice. It worked out. Got those back-to-back. I'm up like over 20 units for the year. I also had my 8th each way hit in 10 events. And so, that's solid. And each way is basically like my cash game lineup. If you hit that, I'm making the majority of my money back. I think I'm losing like 1.7, 1.8, somewhere around there, almost 2 units. Only losing 2 units when I hit in each way. When I don't hit it, I'm losing like 8. Right. So that's a big difference, right? 2 to 8. Betting has been good. DFS has been good. 6 cash lineup win in the last 8 events. Cash lineup's been very, very strong. I actually did a little bit better than min cash in the $100 single entry. I min cashed to $33. I min cashed to $12 this past week. Almost 85% return on investment. I've had a couple of those now this year to go along with that big $2,000, almost $3,000 week at Riv with the 6th place in the $100 single entry that week. I had a 6 of 6 in this $100 single entry this week. It got up to like 8th at one point, but it finished I think 70th or something. My guys all made the cut. I just didn't really have anyone up high in that lineup. And the other lineups were 5 of 6 and 4 of 6, and those cashed because I had all the studs in that one. So I wish it could have been rearranged a little bit, but with all that, I'm up over 20 units for DFS as well. Now the thing about it is, it's very easy to lose those 20 units in a span of 4 to 5 weeks. It can easily happen, both on the gambling side, both on the DF side. So we got to keep plugging along. I don't think I've ever had. I think I've had 3 in a row. Maybe I think I had 3 out of 4 once. I know I've had 7 out of 12 one time. That was in 2018 fall, end of the year through the fall, through the beginning of the following season. I had 7 winners in 12 weeks. That was like when we first started the betting segments on the show at Tambo back in the day, like late 2018, late 2019. I haven't had a run like that anywhere near close to that since then. So it's nice getting the back-to-back. It wasn't that fun to watch. We'll talk more about that in the course and stuff as the show goes on. But yeah, very successful week. Hopefully it keeps on going. We're going to try and make it 3-peat, try and get that turkey this week.
You can't get on a run, Kenny, without going 2 for 2, baby. So you've done the hard part now. Now we got to just roll. Let's cruise. So I had a very mediocre week again. Still trying to just get my shit together. It's a bit of a struggle, but the way we're betting right now is kind of, it can get fixed quickly. I can make up a lot of ground in a good week, because we're betting to win a lot, on round leaders and things like that. And if you're not hitting those, you can leak and bleed a little bit, but good bankroll management, keep in the game, and rock and roll.
Yeah, all it takes is one, right? Because I think I bet 8 or 9 guys last week, and there was I don't think anyone else except Koepka was inside the top 30. Right? I didn't. They all sucked. Right? Yeah. But all it takes is one. You get that right, you're good to go. Especially if you just do outrights in each ways like I do. So all it takes is one. And then you're right back in it.
No, I'm not concerned. Last Cristobal del Solar last year saved a bunch of stress and things with the first round leader of 300 to 1. That's the kind of stuff that I'm delving into, So you got to understand that there's going to be losing weeks, but when the big one comes, we're going to cook. So got a couple of them this week for 30 unit wins, which we can just get us straight into the green right away if those cash. So I'm not too concerned. I'm looking forward. I'm trying to stay positive again and rock and roll. Twitter community is very, very supportive. Discord's been very supportive. Kenny's been very supportive. Lots of good stuff going on. So anything happened to you over the weekend, Kenny?
Yeah, let's talk about the event just a little bit. A lot of golfers seem to find their form. They've been sort of off. You had Sungjae up on the top of the lead. Tom Kim, who was up there a little bit. You had Finau, who was up there for a little bit. All guys who've sort of been struggling. And it seems that they're making a little bit of a bounce back. Same with Patrick Cantlay. Of course, it all happens right before the Masters to make us try and think harder. You look and the event itself, we had Snedeker go out and do his thing, and we'll talk about the course and stuff, but nobody really felt like they wanted to win the event on Sunday. It was sort of a letdown watching it. Sungjae blew up, Snedeker blew up, which you could probably see coming because of the way they've been playing for the last. I think in the last 5 years, Snedeker has 55 missed cuts and 5 top 10s. Right? You could sort of see that coming. Sunday's been awful for over a year now.
Right? An injury.
Yeah, coming off an injury, so you could sort of see him fading. And so what Fitz did was really impressive. He just held his ground. Didn't make any bogeys, didn't make any mistakes, and hit 2 clutch putts. He hit that bomb on 15 to get him, tied for the lead with Lipsky. And then, of course, he hit that birdie on 18. And, we saw it happening with him. A lot of people said he was going to win. Luckily, I put the money down on him. It was very, very nice. Now, one thing I will say about the event.
Before you get there, Kenny, Fitz, when do you think, if ever, he's going to go to a mallet? Because he was pretty neutral in putting all week and he still won the tournament. And we know he's a good putter. And we've seen these guys, Tony Finau, Scotty, etc., moving to a mallet from a blade putter and finding pretty much instant success. Brandt Snedeker gained 5 strokes twice putting at this event with the new mallet, So
it's weird because Brandt Snedeker usually has that spider he's always used, and to switch it up, pretty big deal for him probably, and he it worked.
Yeah. So I think if Fitzy is comfortable with a bit of change, I think he's got the gamer in there now, which obviously worked down the stretch when he needed to make them, but he wouldn't have had to make any of those putts, those big ones, if he could just sink a couple 7-footers for birdie.
Yeah.
I think he's got like a mental thing where if it's a 10-footer for par, he'll make it. If it's a 6-footer for birdie, he'll miss it. It's like, I think that's the situation with him. So these hard conditions really help him a lot because pars can win you tournaments. But
I think that it was actually pretty impressive because of, how irritated it was about ADDC's slow play, called it glacial. Basically he ratted him out to the official. Was like, yo, put this motherfucker on the clock because he is playing way too slow. You saw, basically, usually snitches get stitches. Right? Usually. Yeah. But in the case of slow play, everybody should be a rat. Everybody should be big pussy. Right? Everybody should be a fucking rat when it comes to slow play. And he was pulling the Sabatini. Mm-hmm. Right? He was walking in front, finishing the hole before the guy, playing out of turn, doing whatever he can to try and get catch up to the group in front of him. Kudos to him. That was nice. He ran him out. He did what to do. And he said it affected his game, and he was able to play through that and still get the victory. I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, it shows where he was mentally, because you could see he was rattled, and then he eventually came. But also, ADDC made 2 8s on a par 5. Yeah. That is, what on earth are you doing? And the par 5s are like the easiest holes on the course, and he's making 8s. So that was interesting.
The thing about it is, not necessarily a Valspar when it comes to easy par 5s.
Number one is an easy par 5.
Yeah, number one's easy. The other 3, not so much. The issue I have with Copperhead, I know people love that it's a difficult course, right? That you see winning scores of -10, -11. You really got to have your game down to play that course well. But the problem I have with that course is there's no reward for aggressiveness. There's not too many risk-reward shots. Look at the par 5 11th hole. You can hit a drive 335 yards right down the middle. And honestly, there's no point in going for the green. The green's so small, and there's so much danger around the green. If you miss deep, you're fucked. All right? There's literally no point in going for it because you're not going to hold the green. It's almost an impossible shot. The risk reward is not worth it. And that's basically the whole entire course. You lay up to 80 yards and then hit your little wedge in, right? You do that. There's no drivable par 4s, right? So what the course does, it makes everyone play the same shots, which I guess what some people want to see that, right? They're all hitting it to within 30, 40 yards of each other on the drive, and they're just hitting their approaches. There's no cutting corners. There's no drivable par 4s. There's really no going for it on the par 5s other than one. So to me, it doesn't bring any excitement to the course, and that's what you want. Yes, you want. Would I rather have this course than a 28 under par course? Yes. Okay. Yes, I would, but it still doesn't mean I like the course, especially for viewing pleasure. It's not fun to watch. First off, it didn't look great. And granted, it hadn't rained in a while, right? It was sort of dry. So, everything looked fuzzy. The grass wasn't very green. There was yellow grass. I thought what was weird was around the green, there were some areas that were like patchy, like the rough. Like you'd have like high rough, and then next to it would be like, literally like my Muni, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like consistent rough around. It's like patches where, your ball could be, in the rough, or it could be like in a dirt spot around the rough. Right, something literally I see at Penderbrook Golf Course across the street from my house that I pay $69 every, this past weekend to play. Yeah. It looked just like that. Okay, fine. It didn't have that much rain. It wasn't going to be lush. Okay, that's not even the biggest deal. It's just the fact that there's no risk reward. It's not fun to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone at the top of the board also felt like they were the short game specialists for the most part. They were just grinding their way through, right? And then only the snake pit isn't even like venomous that much. It's just 16, really, that's causing issues for these guys. And then they handled it seemingly fine, So
well, 16 was the only one where shit has changed, really, because they're cutting that corner now. A little bit on the dog leg right. They're cutting that corner now. Like that's sort of new, right? We saw Pens hit it out there deep. You know what I'm saying? Like so, but the thing is, like, even from a wedge from there with the pin location in the back, it was still tough. Probably like harder that you were closer if you can get any spin, because the pin was in so far back that if you hit a wedge, and there's any spin, that thing's going to shoot back a little bit. You sort of want to be 8 iron, 9 iron, 6 iron, right? So you don't get that spin. To me, I didn't like that risk reward, lack of risk reward factor.
Yeah, I think that's the nature of a difficult course. And well, some courses are difficult, like sawgrass and things like that have water. I think water makes it exciting. So, but getting back to how the course looked, I don't care what it looks like. Like I like it when a course is actually like that because it's firm and it's fast. Like when you have it green, it's overseeded and it's watered and it's soft. Like I like to see a nice. Brandt was hitting driver DOD, baby, multiple times off the tee. Just drive off the deck, chase it down those fairways and go. But like also the cast of characters we had at the top of the leaderboard was a snooze fest. Fitzy is nothing. He's not polarizing at all.
A U.S. Open's different.
Yeah.
You got the best golfers in the world.
Yeah.
Right. That's different. Then I would like to see it. A very difficult test because it's fun. Here you had Brandt Snedeker and Sung J M at the top of the leaderboard who's not really been the best out there. Right. And you just see him struggle on Sunday. And then
JT, Cantley, Xander, all like non-existent until the very end. They backdoored a lot of that stuff. And those are the superstars that can make a course like this exciting because they've got the ability to hit the right shots. But David Lipsky is not going to hold the par 5 green.
He played well.
He played great.
Well. I was very impressed.
Within his means, and I for showdown in round 4, I faded the top 3 guys. And it worked out for 2 of them. They just completely imploded. Lipsky kind of held it together, but he wasn't in the final group. That final group can get like depressing quickly, and the Sanjay showed up wearing straight up black, goth, tears running down his face kind of thing. And it's interesting to see. But what were you going to say?
I don't remember, but
okay.
When it comes to it, we'll transition here a little bit. Like I said, Fitzpatrick was talking about snitches get stitches. I've told this story a couple times, but we'll do a little quick story time with Kenny about snitches getting stitches. So I was at a barbecue with my friends, about 7-8 years ago. And we were at buddy's house. Everyone's kids were over. I was stuck watching the kids and stuff like that because I try and help my friends, right? I mean, these guys, my buddies are living with kids. They got to deal with their kids all the time. It was a holiday, Memorial Day or something like that. I was like, all right, look, you guys have a good time, eat, drink, be merry. I'll watch your kids for a couple hours out here, have a good time because I don't have kids, so I can have fun every day, right? these guys can't anymore, right? These guys can't. So I was giving them a little break. And so it was me and my buddy. We were sitting out there and watching the kids play and stuff like that. And his daughter, a really cute girl, I think she might have been 4 at that time, 4 or 5. We're outside, and they have a playground set in their backyard. And the daughter decides to run up the slide, right? Like your kids do, right? And, dad being a dad is like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Don't run up the slide. You don't know who's coming down. You could get hurt, right? You can get hurt, right? And so, she didn't do it anymore. And so he goes back in, starts having some drinks and, chilling with people, the adults inside. And I'm outside watching all the children, which in hindsight, you're right. Probably not the best idea, but I'm pretty good with kids. And so, another boy, a little bit older than her, runs up the slide, right? And she sees it, and she's sitting next to me, right? And she looks at me like, he gets to run up the slide. Why can't I? Right? And so, I grab her by the shoulders, and I look at her straight in the face, and I said, snitches get stitches. And I explained to her what that meant. That, like, being a tattletale is an easy way to lose friends, especially from a child's perspective, right? You don't want to be known as a tattletale, right? And so, I explained this to her in a kid-friendly way.
By
right?
grabbing her by
but
the shoulders.
I did say snitches get stitches. Yeah, I did say snitches get stitches. I did say that in the beginning. So, we finish up at this party. All right. And, I go home. A couple hours later, I get a call from my buddy's wife. All right. And she's like, what did you tell my daughter? First off, all the wives hate me. They hate me because I'm the one that, keeps their husbands out late, gets their husbands in trouble, stuff like that. Right. Because I'm the single guy and I don't care. And back then I was a lot more wild than I am now in my old age. And so first off, she doesn't like me. And so, she calls me and she's like, what did you tell my daughter? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nothing. Like, what happened? Right. And so she begins to explain that they're at the house and it's her and her little brother in the room, and somebody spilled like a grape juice drink on the carpet, right? Like on the carpet, right? It made a huge mess. And so the mom goes up to them and is like, who spilled the drink? And the little girl looked her mom straight in the eyes and said, snitches get stitches. Personally, I was very proud of this. I was like, but of course, the mother was not happy, yelling at me, shit like that. And I was like, fuck you, bitch. I did not say that because then I wouldn't be able to hang out with my friend. But that's what I was thinking in my head. I was like, I'm helping you out, bitch. Shut the fuck up. But of course, I did not say that. I thought it hard.
Good on you, Kenny.
But then I got, so that's what happened. I get a call back from my buddy an hour later, and he's thrilled. He's like, I'm so glad you taught her not to be a tattletale, blah, 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 because that's not what her mom's going to teach her. And I feel like she's going to remember what you said more than what her mom said. So my boy was happy about it. But that is my snitches get stitches story. At least the one snitches get stitches story that doesn't involve like bodily harm that I can tell, on the show.
Speaking of snitches getting stitches and Matthew Fitzpatrick, he has me blocked on X because I was, him and Justin Rose both. I think he told Rosie and then they both blocked me at the same time. But I was watching a Jets game. I think we were playing Atlanta or something like 2-3 years ago, and drinking, doing a good, doing what you do when you're just watching Jets football. And at the same time, I was tilting the Euro, where they go out there for a charity event. It's Tigers like charity, event, and it's all guaranteed prize money. There's like only 18 people playing. Colin Morikawa landed up getting a 2-shot penalty for writing some notes in his yardage book or something. And Fitz tried to clarify with the rules official if that was allowed or not. And by doing that, Colin got retroactively penalized 2 shots for a really random ass rule at a random ass tournament at a charity event. So in my stupor of,
you get world golf ranking points at that event. It's not charity.
The main point of the event is charity, so to speak, and you get invited there only. You can play yourself in world ranking wise, but whatever. So I tweet out, I find a photo of him and his wife, and they're at the Wimbledon, tennis tournament, and I just use that as the image underneath the tweet, and I say, rent a wife asks, so honey, what did you do today? Because Fitzy obviously got married to this chick like within a couple months, really after meeting her, and she's way out of his league. But anyway, oh no, nothing. I got Colin Morikawa a 2-shot penalty at a charity event and blah blah blah, and turns out that it went viral and someone tagged Fitz in it, and then he blocked me. So it just happens, man. And unfortunately, I couldn't congratulate Fitz this week because I'm blocked from him on Twitter now. So it was a much better. I deleted it as well.
I don't know if I'm blocked. Maybe I am. I have no idea if I'm blocked by anybody on X. I probably should be. Yeah, well, fuck them. Fuck them both. Yeah, fuck them both. Other things that has happened. You got to talk about your country.
Yes, dude.
Event, over on Live. You guys showed out. They were brawling in the stands like it was like it was a Waste Management Phoenix Open. Bunch of South Africans fighting.
They do. We call him Haze. Like if you hear in the videos, like, yeah, push him, push him here, push him, China, like a push klop is like when you just give a guy a good liberty, and that's what they drink brandy. And then the boys go after it. It's like it's a staple of I've never been in a fight in my life. So I couldn't even watch those videos entirely because it makes me cold, watching people like punch other people in the face, like in a random situation like that. But that was the negative part of it all.
I follow like fighting, accounts on X just to see people get knocked the fuck out.
What's it was called? Worldwide
World Star, some shit like
World
that.
Stars. Yeah.
There's
Crazy
a bunch
stuff.
of them out there. I'm actually a fan of those. I like seeing people get knocked the fuck out. It's fun to me.
But the best part about Live South Africa, I knew this was going to happen. I just didn't know how epic it would be. It was pretty epic. And South Africans and Australians, we obviously go up against each other often in sports, rugby and cricket particularly, and we're both very good nations in both those departments. So we're often seeing each other in semi-finals and finals of World Cups and things like that, play each other often in test match cricket, and they were cheating using sandpaper on the cricket balls, blah, blah, blah. That's why they're beating us, because they're cheating. And we get to South Africa, and there's that video of Bryson trying to hit his chip, but the entire crowd around 18 green is just singing the national anthem. And our national anthem is a 4-language national anthem. I have no idea what I'm singing for the first 2 paragraphs of the anthem, because we have 11 official languages, now 12, I think, with sign language. So 9 of them are black languages that we don't learn, that they like small amounts of people only speak them, from the different tribes and things like that. And I know the words. I know like 50 words of Zulu and Xhosa or whatever, but I don't know what they mean because I sing them. But then you get to the third part of the anthem, and it's Afrikaans. And in the rugby stadiums, that is when it slows down, and then the Afrikaans comes and it just pounds home. And then the English is the final chorus, the kind of final phrase. And Bryson couldn't hit his chip because they were just ripping this national anthem while Gracie was standing on the green. It was sick, dude. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And that's what Live needs, man, is it's hard to get behind Hong Kong. It's hard to get behind Singapore when there's just a bunch of yous standing out there, Kenny, going, ooh, like you can literally hear the individual oohs and ahs, like you want to hear like a crowd going crazy when there's like thousands of people around there. That's what makes it engaging. And South Africa
if there was like a guy from Hong Kong or Singapore in the league, I'm sure it would be different, but I don't think there's people in that league that are from there.
Right.
I get the idea, try and grow it so they can, get bigger later. But you're right. It's not, I mean, Live overall is not the best product visually. A couple of events.
SA, Australia, 2 amazing events.
Yeah.
I watched both of them, so it's the crowd and, the people just being organically invested in the tournament makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And
I was going to talk more about Bryson and Rahm being a playoff, which is, pretty fun to watch. Bryson shot on the first playoff hole, 320 from the rough to 8 feet for eagle to win it. It was pretty. I don't care if you like Live or not. That's just good golf, right? I like good golf, and that was impressive. Bryson won back-to-back heading into Augusta. Jon Rahm is actually leading the world in strokes gained total. In like strokes gained total, via data golf with adjusted strokes gained. He's beating out Scheffler and beating out everyone this season. I think they're both live for the Masters. Rahm, I like a lot. Rahm for Augusta, I think he's going to be my one and done. I think he's going to be on my betting card. I'll probably wait till the 3 places come out because I think he's like 14 or something like that.
12-1 right now. Yeah, Bryson and Rahm are both 12-1 at the Masters.
I'd like to get him around 20 or 25 with the 3 places. I think that's what I'll wait for once that comes down. But the man's playing good golf. He got that win, about 3 weeks ago. And I think he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. I say what you want about what he's doing with the DP World Tour. He's doing that knowing that people are against him and what he's doing, but he's standing on his own convictions. I don't know enough about the situation to be one way or the other on that when it comes to what he's doing with the DP World Tour, not signing on and not paying the fines and maybe not playing the Ryder Cup ever again. So I don't know exactly, but obviously, it seems like there's a chip on his shoulder. And John with a chip on his shoulder is the John that you want, right? You want sort of that Hulk Rahm who's, not too much on the course, but, playing with a little bit of anger. And I like him a lot for Augusta coming up.
I saw him hit a couple drives, like 188 mile per hour ball speed. Because he's so strong and he swings like a 3/5 swing.
Well, he has to. Well, because the whole thing when he was a kid, he had the problems with his foot, and that was the only way he could swing a golf club till he grew out of it. And he just kept it like that, right? I think one foot is drastically shorter than the other. And so it fucks up his backswing. It keeps him off balance. So he can only go 3/4. And he's pounding it out there, man. So a lot of good. I mean, you saw Nelly Korda and HJ Kim in that Fortinet Classic. That was some good golf. Nelly came back from 5 down, blew it at the end with a 3-putt from like 4 feet. But that was sort of fun to watch. I sort of like HJ Kim at the next major. She seems like someone who sort of plays these, because that was not an easy course that they were playing. I mean, like she was hitting the ball 220 in the air and it was rolling out 60 yards, right? So it was a fun little course that they played. I enjoyed all the golf this weekend.
Yeah, it was good. And saw old Ronnie O'Sullivan, Kenny, with the 153 in snooker or professional pool in one of the majors that they had, like broke some records because, I've been big into the pool league stuff and, watching you dominate when you were here, I figured you'd care a little bit more about Ronnie O'Sullivan doing his thing, like in his Dustin Rose age.
I watch 9-ball on occasion when it used to be on TV a bunch, like the Black Widow and stuff like that. And there was this European chick who sort of looks like with the short hair, it looks like a Karen. I forget her name, but she was really, really good too. I'd watch those guys, those ladies a bunch back in the day when it was on ESPN all the time.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I've been watching a lot of that on social, just like highlight clips of those guys are so good, man. So good. Anything else you want to chat about, brother?
No, let's see. I know somebody won last week, right?
Yes, we've got Dodgers fan 330, who was the person that commented first with Matt Fitzpatrick to be the winner of the Valspar. This, congratulations, you get a free month in the Model Maniac Patreon. All my tools that you'll see on the screen here, all my stuff in the Model Maniac Patreon is yours for a free month. Comment below. The first person to do so with the winner of this week's Houston Open will get another free month to the Model Maniac Patreon. You must be the first person to do it. If you're the second person, your thing's voided. You're wasting your time. Rather just choose another name, because you don't want duplicates in there. We take the first name only. So congrats to Dodgers fan 330. We'll see you in there. Reach out to me on X or however in the comments below, whatever you need to do, grab it. I'll see you in there. I'll be watching my DMs now once Twitter's fixed those because it's currently not working. But it is what it is. We'll figure that out as we go. Kenny, talk to us about what we can expect at Memorial Park this week.
All right, so the PGA Tour heads to Houston, Texas for the Texas Children's Houston Open from Memorial Park Golf Course. This course, I think this is the 6th year that it has been in play. The course was originally designed by John Brodemus, who also did some work on the design of Colonial Country Club. Recently, the course redesigned by Tom Doak. And although none of his courses have had PGA Tour run, he did intern for Pete Dye. Also, Brooks Koepka was invited to be a consultant in the redesign of this course. There has been, some speculation. Sawgrass, other Dye courses have been correlated courses. Others have spoken about like Torrey, Augusta, TPC Scottsdale. Personally, I think if you look at the leaderboards, Farmers in Mexico seem like a couple of leaderboards where you're seeing a lot of the similar names when it comes down to this course. Texas courses also could be comp, Valero, Country Club Houston, Colonial, PGA National, another lengthy par 70. In 2020, the course played pretty tough. The winning score was only I think 13. And the median score was around -1. Ortiz took it down. In 2021, you got Kokrak. He won a -10. Medium score +1. A lot of the top golfers in the field, including Decky, DJ, Koepka, first year Scheffler, Burns, Cam Smith, Sungjae. 3 years ago, they were all in the mix. Finau won 3 years ago. -17, but there weren't that many people double-digit under par. Now, in the 3 years in the 3 years since this course is hosted, there hasn't been that many in the first 3 years, right? But a lot of that was in the fall swing. Yeah, when it switched over to the spring, it started to play a little bit easier. Right. You've seen like higher scores, a lot more people under par, double digit under par. I would say, I think when Jaeger won, it was only -12, but like 10 golfers were double digit under par. And I think like prior to that, there was only like 7 like ever when it played in the fall. Right. And then, I think last year with heavy rain beforehand, making the soft conditions, 26 golfers finished double digits under par, and Min Woo was the one that finished at 20 under. So, looking at course history here, I would think about only looking at like the last 3 years, right? Ever since once it came to the spring, because prior to that, it really was a totally different course played in the fall. So just getting to the main parts of the course, Memorial Park Golf Course, 7,450 yard, par 70, 3 par 5s, 5 par 3s. 2 of the par 5s should be reachable by all. The par 5 8th hole is like 640, right? That one's going to be tough. We probably got to do a 3-shot hole on this one. 3 of the par 3s range from 200 to 235, and the last 2 are much shorter, ranging from 155 to 170. When it comes to the par 4s, 2 play fairly short with your yardages right at or just below 400 yards, with 1 being drivable. 3 par 4s range from 440 to 455, and 5 are very long, playing over 490 yards. Looking at this configuration, I think we see a fair amount of shots from over 200 yards and between 175 and 200. Off the tee, golfers are going to see tree line fairways that have been widened a bit by Tom Doak. The trees aren't too bunched like they are at Colonial. Golfers will have outs most of the time when they miss wildly into the trees. We've seen the bomb and gouge technique work well here the last couple of years. Also, there's a bit of room between the edge of the fairway and the start of the trees. The rough the last couple of years, only about 1.5 inches. We'll see if that stays. Maybe they got tired of it being -20 last year and they grow to rough out a little bit. I haven't heard anything about that yet. But what we've seen recently in the last few years, it was only about 1.5 to 2 inches. The one thing you won't see much of, bunkers. There are only 19 bunkers on the course and only 2 are hazards that are in play on the 4 holes. You mix into the account where the trees aren't that bunched up. There is some OB, but it's not like crazy. A lot of times you can just hit into the other fairway. If you're missing these fairways, you can basically nuke your drive as much as you'd like on this hole, and that's what we've seen a lot of at this event, especially the last 3 years. I don't think missing a lot of fairways was going to make it impossible to play well, but I think you might need a good short game, right? Because you are going to be hitting long irons to this. And you're not going to hit as many greens as you normally would. The greens, the approach shots golfers are going to see are above average in size greens. They're Bermuda grass that are overseeded with Poa trivialis, something that we've grown accustomed to the last month and a half. They used the mini Verde Bermuda with overseed that is similar to East Lake. East Lake might have changed that recently. I'm not 100% sure. But for the longest time, that's how East Lake rolled, especially with that Bermuda. The greens, maybe slightly large when it comes to square footage, but many are crowned on the edges, and depending on pin locations, the landing areas to have a good birdie chance are pretty small. If golfers miss the greens, they're going to have to deal with, a bunch of shortly mown runoff areas similar to what we see at Augusta. The greens should be firm and fast and are severely sloped. Again, you got to worry about the wind here. It's Texas. I got to see if there's going to be how much rain they have prior, because that will make the scoring a little bit easier than what we've seen. Now, before we get to Byron and what he's looking for this week, let's hear a message from DraftKings.
The battle for the jacket is heating up in Augusta, and there's no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. And for the year's first major, our partners at DraftKings are giving all customers a shot to play free for a $1 million top prize with your next deposit of $10 or more. That's 100,000 times your deposit if you win, only on DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. It's simple to play. Build your dream lineup while staying under the salary cap, then sit back and watch as your players rack up points. Every birdie, every bogey, every clutch putt, feel the intensity of every shot. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app to play free for a shot at the $1 million top prize with just a $10 deposit. That's for all DraftKings customers. Just download the Daily Fantasy app for your free shot today. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most states. Restrictions apply. One per customer. Minimum $10 single deposit. Reward issued as one $10 ticket for the DraftKings Day Fantasy Golf Millionaire Contest. Ticket is single use and expires at contest lock on 4/9/26. See terms at DraftKings.com/promos. Sponsored by DraftKings. All right, Kenny, thank you for that. Like you mentioned, course history is a very it's kind of difficult to use because you've really only got those last couple of years before they moved, from the fall. So that makes a big difference. The rough is overseeded, so the balls aren't like falling into the thick Bermuda. So hitting out of there is easy, especially when it's 1 1/4 inch tall. I mean, it's not even rough, it's like just a nice big first cut, so it's a nice situation for these guys. Stress-free golf. You can just get a nice tune-up. Don't think it's going to be too taxing on these guys. Looking at the weather in 2024, when Jaeger won at whatever you mentioned, it was a little lower because I think 3 of the 4 days was pretty windy still. And they still managed to get into double digits, where Minwoo played in some calm, which we can kind of expect this week looking at the weather forecast right now. Looks like we're going to see some mediocre winds, not getting much more above 10 miles per hour most of the day. So that's easy scoring conditions. So that's going to be my first box to check this week. We're going to be looking for guys who score well in easy conditions. If you're taking a look at the screen when it shows up here in a couple seconds, easy scoring is when the scoring average for the week is 1.5 under par for each round that they're playing in. And we can expect that to happen this week because they're going to be getting close to minus 20 again in these kind of conditions. So the top guys in this situation, Scotty Scheffler, Johnny Kiefer, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, Neil Shipley, Garrick Higo, Chandler Blanchet, Pearson Coody, Shane Lowry, Minwoo Lee, Adrian Dumont Deschart, the Glacier, and Nikolai Højgaard and Adam Scott all do good work in easy scoring conditions. I've used 20% of my total model weightings to apply to the easy scoring conditions, which is my first box we're going to be looking at. Then when Kenny was telling you about the golf course, here is my micro model. It basically takes each hole that the golfer plays and it tells you, okay, are they going to hit it a certain distance? As you can see, like Scotty Scheffler on 17, he's only going to be hitting this thing like 276. He's averaging around about 305 or so, but on that particular hole, 276 is the drive. And as a result, you're going to have your different approach yardages, which I've used the different proximity buckets from all of there to kind of figure out green regulation rates, fairway rates, all of that stuff for each hole to kind of figure out what your ranking is going to be. The micro model rankings for the top 10 this week are going to be Scotty Scheffler is not number one because I've kind of updated it to just have recent approach play in there for this year. And as a result, we are seeing him kind of fall down the rankings quite significantly with the iron play. And as a result, he's actually 12th, which I think I need to tinker a little bit with that. But yeah, the top guys for this 2026 season so far: Ricky Fowler, Ryan Fox, Minwoo Lee, Sudarshan Yelamaraju, sitting 4th. I don't know if I said that correctly, but there we are. The next name I can get right is Jake Knapp, number 5. Rasmus Højgaard, Kurt Kitayama, Harris English, Ryan Gerard, and Adam Scott are your micro model ranking top 10 over there for you guys. And then we're going to take a look at just a nice graduated sense of recent form. We're going to take 25% from the last 12 months. We're going to take 25% from the last 8 months, 25% from the last 4 months, and then 25% of strokes gained from 2026 only. And your top 10 in that department are going to be Scotty Scheffler, Jake Knapp, Ricky Fowler, Minwoo Lee, Chris Gotterup, Harris English, Shane Lowry, Sam Burns, Ryan Gerard, and Adam Scott, all popping up pretty hard for some good form. As you can see, most of these guys are playing pretty solid in 2026 so far. I've used 10% of my model weightings for 2026 and then 10% for the prorated version of this, which uses the majority of the last 12 months and then it kind of graduates 8, 4, and 2026 into that as well. So that's my third box. And then we're going to go to course history. Like you mentioned, Kenny, it's kind of a weird deal this week. I'm only weighting that like 5%. Sometimes I do that like 15%. We've got a lot of guys. I mean, look at this scrolling here to get to just some course history. So Scotty Scheffler, interesting stuff. He's got 3 second place finishes at this situation. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he gets up to this year. He's first in the strokes gained at Memorial Park. Then we've got Alejandro Tosti, Tony Finau, Stephen Yeager, Minwoo Lee, Gary Woodland, Mackenzie Hughes, Aaron Rai, Wyndham Clark, and Aaron Wise fitting into that mix, which is a nice little sleeper at $6,000 flat if you're looking for an Aaron Wise. I don't know if that is the wisest play to go to, but if you're playing a lot of lineups, maybe it is. Moving over to our finish rates for the last basically 15 months that began in 2025 and have rolled into 2026. I'm looking for just the top 20, top 10, top 5, and win rates for these guys. That is my 5th box we are checking this week. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler is numero uno, well ahead of the field. He is 14.8 in DK pricing, so that makes sense. Ben Griffin is second. A lot of 2025 still coming through there. Marco Penge, Johnny Kiefer, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, Christopher Wrighton, Chandler Blanchet, Shane Lowry, Pearson Coody, Aotong Lee, and Hank Lebioda rounding out the 11th spot over there. I need to get some Corn Ferry Tour stats out of there and some more recent form for 2026. We're going to start moving to a 12-month rolling window next week. We'll get these Corn Ferry and DP World Tour guys out of there. Then we're going to take a look at model ranking. We want to take a look at who ranks out the best. Sometimes they're not going to check a lot of boxes because they just fit outside the top 20. So your top 10 guys using all of these different percentages is Scotty, Minwoo, Jake Knapp, Ricky Fowler, Adam Scott, Shane Lowry, Ryan Gerard, Nikolai Højgaard, Kurt Kitayama, and number 10 is Harris English. But we are not done. We have one more box that I kind of add if I think we need an additional box. Usually the model ranking is last, but we're going to be diving into driving distance, which I'm using 10% of my model weightings for. The bombers of the week: Aldrich Potgieter leading the field, Marco Penge, Jesper Svensson, Michael Brennan, Gordon Sargent, Rasmus Højgaard, Gary Woodland, Chris Gotterup mentioned he wanted to hit nukes everywhere. Your defending champ, Minwoo Lee, Pearson Coody, and then Christo Lamprecht from South Africa, who hits it a mile but doesn't do anything else well, is your guy over there. So that's going to be our boxes for the week. There are 7 of them. Minwoo Lee, as you saw on the screen there, checks all 7 of those boxes. And that makes a lot of sense because he's the defending champ. So we'll see what he can do for us this week. Number 2 in the model behind Scotty Scheffler. Whew. Lots of talking there, Kenny. But who are you going to be betting this week at the Houston Open?
First bet for this week is going to be Brooks Koepka, 22-1 with 8 places. I'm just going to keep betting him until he wins because it's going to happen. I know some people are saying, "Oh, why would you bet Koepka at a non-major?" Because he wants to get into these city events. He wants to prove that him being he's sort of like Rahm, playing with a chip on his shoulder. Like people saying like, "Why did he get in so easy?" He wants to prove himself. And I think the way he's been playing, he's been trying. The one thing that's been holding him back is the putter, and he hasn't been that great off the tee, but his iron game has been unbelievably good. And for the most part, his off the tee game has been well above average. It's the putter that's really, really has let him down. And maybe he knows a little bit more about here. He did finish 5th the first time he played here 7 years ago, right? In the inaugural, I think, time that was played at Memorial Park. So I'm hoping that maybe he knows these greens well, that he can get a little bit more comfortable with the putter. And if he gains like a stroke putting, he should win. I think. I think if he gains a stroke putting, per round, I think he'll win. So that's what I'm hoping for with Brooksy, 22-1 with 8 places. Next is going to be Adam Scott, 30-1 with 8 places. Comes in first in my model for this week. 7th in strokes gained tee to green, 2nd in strokes gained approach, 3rd in strokes gained ball striking, all in the last 24 rounds in this field. Playing the par 5s very well, playing the par 3s very well. One of the best at avoiding bogeys the last 24 rounds. Excellent from 175 plus. He's been swinging the ball. He's been nuking it. He's been hitting it a lot farther. And again, you could spray it a little bit here and be okay. And I think this is the perfect setup for the way his game looks this season, where, his iron game's still pretty damn good. He's off the tee because of his speed. He's trying to get longer, and he has. And now at this course, he can use that to his advantage, where if he misses, it's not going to kill him. It's not going to kill him, right? And so I think he's a very, very good bet this week, 30-1, 8 places. Next, it's going to be Michael Thorbjornsen, 33-1 with 8 places. Got a taste of the limelight, right, at the Players. I mean, he folded like a fucking lawn chair, but he got a taste, right? The guy is a stud, right? He's basically, they were comparing him to Oberg with all the stuff that he did prior to becoming a PGA Tour member. That a win is probably going to happen. I think Oberg got his first win at the RSM, not the best field out there, a fall event. This is not the best field out there, and I think he can pound it out there. Hopefully, get hit his wedges average, because his longer irons are his best part of his iron game. So on the par 5s, he should have an advantage. On the par 3s, he should have an advantage. On the 490-yard, plus par 4s, that should be pretty good for him. So I really do like Thorpe this week. Next, it's going to be Gary Woodland, 60-1 with 8 places. When I made this bet this morning, I had it at 100-1, and I pressed accept, and it said, "Oh, we changed it to 60-1." I was like, "What the fuck?" You dropped it 40 points in the 30 seconds it took me to press to click that button. I thought it was dirty. All right, and it's not DraftKings. Go play DraftKings. They're legit. They're not gonna fuck you like this book did. But I was gonna bet Woodland anyways. And I want the places, so I just bet him at 60-1 with 8 places. Runner up here last year, looked very strong last week, gaining in every strokes gained category except around the green. And I think he only lost like 1/10 of a stroke around the green. Has been nuking it off the tee. His long irons, similar to what we've seen from Thorpe, long irons have been his best irons this year so far. So I really like Gary Woodland. Next, Tony Finau, 70-1 with 8 places. Has quietly put in a respectable last month of play. 2 top 20s, 4 made cuts in 4 events. Also had an 11th at the Farmers correlated course earlier this year. We have seen really solid iron and around the green play from him recently, right? But his bugaboo has been off the tee where he can spray it, but he can spray it here. He's 1 year, 3 years ago, came runner up the following year. The course history is there. I think maybe the game is coming back for Tony. So I think a win might be lucky, but a place I think is very, very possible this week. Did you have something to say about him?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about him when I say that I've bet him as well, 80-1. Since he's moved to the mallet putter, he's had very good putting performances compared to what we're used to seeing with Tony Finau, right? So he's gained 3 of the last 5 since moving to the putter. So that's a massive, massive thing at a golf course that he loves. So that's my Tony Finau take for you guys.
Next one, it's going to be Michael Brennan, 100-1, 8 places. Like last week, I'm going to save him for later. I'm going to save him for later, just like last week. So we'll talk about Brennan here later. My final bet's just going to be toasty. I had 370-1 on 300-1 on Bet365, and when I clicked the button, they changed the odds on me again to 180-1.
They know you were shocked.
120 points right when I clicked it. I was like,
Jesus
what the
Christ.
fuck? This is some bullshit. I was like, this is some bullshit. I still bet him 180-1 with 8 places, but I did bet him 575-1 win only on DraftKings Sunday afternoon. Right? It's a course history play. Right? Finished 2nd and 5th here the last 2 years and had his best performance of the season last week, which it wasn't great, but it still was his best performance of the season. I think he's missed every cut leading up to finally making the cut last week. Copperhead, not like too dissimilar outside of the driver heaviness. The same proximity, stuff like that. Lots of long irons, similar grass types. So I'm going to go ahead and take the flyer on him. So my bets so far for this week are going to be Koepka, 22-1, 8 places. Adam Scott, 30-1, 8 places. Thorpe, 33-1, 8 places. Woodland, 60-1, 8 places. Finau, 70-1, 8 places. Brennan, 100-1, 8 places. Toasty, 180-1, 8 places. And 575-1 win only.
Beautiful. I love that. I, too, have a Toasty ticket, Kenny. I think I have it at 725-1 when it dropped on Sunday afternoon. If you want some of the best numbers in the industry, it's when DraftKings drops their odds on Sunday. So they put it out there and they haven't had any, you can be the first person to identify that the odds are off. And 725-1, Alejandro Toasty betting 0.1 unit to win 72.5 units. That's incredible. So I popped it in the Discord. A couple minutes later, it had already moved to 525. Like you mentioned, I think it's sitting at 330 now. So still, anything in the hundreds with this guy. I took a peek at his recent form the last 2 times he's played when he's finished 5th and 2nd here. His 30th at the Copperhead is his best finish leading up to the Texas Open, apart from a Mexico 8th place finish that he had one of the years. We didn't have Mexico this year. Again, you mentioned a very good comp course. So it's very similar driver heavy, long iron intensive stuff. And relatively easy. So it makes a lot of sense for him. Why? He can nuke the driver, but everything else is pretty bad from him, but he seems to just show up. And he is my ladder bet of the week for Lindeque's ladder, because the odds are just too good to pass up, right? We're going to be looking at Alejandro Tosti top 5 at 43-1 for a top 5. He's done that 2 times he's played here. A top 10, he's 1750, plus 1750 there for a top 10. And then a top 20 for him is plus 740. So you barely, you can roll out half a unit worth of total bets for those if you ladder them correctly. 0.1 unit for top 5, 0.2 for top 10, and then you can go 0.3 for top 20 for 0.6 units total to win a lot. 4.3 unit return on a 0.1 top 5 is money, baby. So that's my Lindeque ladder of the week, is Alejandro Tosti, the Houston Open magician, man. I don't know what he gets up to here, but he loves playing good golf here in Texas. Let's get after it. Tosti. Marco Penge found a 52-1 on Sunday night. There's 30s out there, 33s. I still would bet him in the mid-30s right now. If you take a look, Brandt Snedeker hit a tee shot at the Valspar while Penge was still waiting to hit his second shot on a par 5, and Sneds just hit his drive because he landed up 50 yards short of Marco Penge. Like, Penge is one of the elite drivers of the golf ball, like we showed in the boxes there. He's hits it so far. And he's a 3-time DP World Tour winner. So he's had a health issue recently. He's had a baby, a second child that they had in Florida. He just moved to Florida. So, like, his entire world has changed. He's just getting used to his PXG clubs. And the baby was in the NICU for a couple of weeks. So it's not been a normal time period for him. And we saw a 16th at Riv at the Genesis Invitational, missed the cut at the Players. And then we saw him really he was leading the tournament tied at one point on the back 9, I think, on Sunday, before, a couple juiced up pitching wedges went way further than he thought. So, I think he's going to have a lot of wedges in because he can hit it 350, easy. And it's crazy to think about. So Marco Penge at 52-1, drop that in the Discord. There's 35s out there. Go grab one of those. Same vein, Aldrich Potgieter. There's 100-1s out there, dropped 145-1 for him. He's my guy. I play him at these courses where it's driver heavy. He missed the cut in his only appearance here last year, but gained 3 strokes off the tee. He lost like 5 strokes putting, but when he's playing well, he's putting well. And when you get long irons in his hand, you get lots of drivers, Aldrich's your guy. We've seen him do this at Riviera, where he finished solo 5th. We've seen him do well at Mexico, where he lost to Brian Campbell in the playoff. And he won at the Rocket Mortgage, where you hit driver on basically every single hole. So unless it's a drivable par 4, where Aldrich has to hit a 3-wood so it doesn't go over the green. So, he's got tons of juice. He can get to those 680-yard par 5s in 2 if he's really feeling it and, get the right kind of win. So 140-1 for Aldrich over there. Then we're going to go to Tony Finau. Like I mentioned, I also bet him with the top 5 at 11-1 on DraftKings. Ties paid in full. So if he ties with a bunch of other dudes, you're Gucci. I cashed a Matt Fitzpatrick bet last week that lost me $5. I bet 25 and lost. I got 20 in return because of dead heat. So when you can bet placement markets with ties paid in full, do it, because you do not want to cash a bet and win it and land up losing money. Mm-hmm.
One thing I'll say is, if you heard, you got 11-1 for a top 5 for Finau, right? The reason I play each ways and don't do the placements is because with 8 places, I get 14-1 for a top 8, right? Yes. That's why I like betting each ways. I know it's not all over the United States yet. I think there's only 2 books near me that do it, and one of them River, where you like swim in a river. Right. That one, I think it only goes up to 6. You can go all the way up to 12 on the site that's open 365 days a year. Right. Yeah. So that's why I like each way betting over placement positions. Because more than likely, if I did placement positions, I would be betting guys that I had on my outright card. It just makes sense, right? You think they're going to win, you play the placements. But the reason why I do each ways is because you get better odds for a top 8. 14-1 for a top 8 or 11-1 for a top 5. Which would you rather have? So That's why I do what I do with the each way betting.
If he lands up finishing T5 with 9 other guys, I'm making more on my top 5 than you are still, though.
True.
So there's certain situations where it's like that. And also myself and Mrs. Maniac have both been limited and restricted on the book that's open 365 days a year. So do not have access to that anymore. And the Rivers, it splits it by 5, so you get your 80 divided by 5, and then you get the 6 places only. And if they dead heat, then you get nuked. So just,
Well, here's the thing. If you do the top 5 each way on 365, that's divided by only a quarter, not a fifth. So that actually, so Tony, I think, was like 75 to 1 or 80 to 1 with 5 places. You divide that by 4, he's 20 to 1 for the top 5. But you're right. The dead heat rules could change that.
Yeah. And, it's what books you have access to. So these are like pseudo each ways in a weird way. I haven't bet the top 5 on Aldrich yet because I forgot that I haven't even put that out there because I bet that on Sunday and they don't have the top 5s out for him when that is the case. So we'll see. Again, the nice thing about also being able to place the top 5 is I bet 0.15 units on the outright, but I can place 2 units or a little more if you're in the mood for the top 5 so that you can make more on the top 5 than you would on an each way, even if he doesn't cash your outright for you. Random nuances that we are. Oh, I did bet the Aldrich top 5 and top 10 at 14 to 1 for the top 5 and 7 to 1 for the top 10. So those are my Aldrich bets for you. Nikolai Højgaard, 40 to 1 at BetMGM earlier today. Found that. I'm going to be waiting for them to drop their odds, but it looks like they've moved that down to 33. So the placement market's going to be pretty much across the board. It's going to be the same. Nikolai, I was betting him round leader at the Valspar last week multiple times because he is explosive. He can get scorching hot. He's one of the longest drivers in the field on tour, really, even. Him and his brother both. I think they split by like a fraction of a mile per hour in ball speed. They're both sitting at like 187 or something ridiculous. So Nikolai Højgaard playing the better golf right now. His finish at the Valspar was his worst finish recently. He's been just crushing top 25s nonstop this year. And this golf course makes tons of sense because he hits the driver everywhere. This week, can hit it everywhere and still, get yourself on the green, make a couple putts. Let's see what Nikolai can do. I'm going to be looking for a top 5 on him once the show's over. Marco Pinch, spoke about him already. And then we're going to go with Ryan Fox, 84 to 1, top 5 as well at 12 to 1, and a top 20 at 2.5 to 1 on DraftKings Tiers, paid in full over there. Foxy just pissed out his kidney stones, or at least he tried. Then he had to go get surgery to get them removed. He's back. He bench presses the most on the PGA Tour. He's a strong boy. His distance is well up there. He's gaining over 10 yards on the field every single time. Putting great golf right now as well. Just been notching up top 24s. I think he's got like 3 top 24s this year already, all in signature events. The winner of the One Flight or whatever at Myrtle Beach and the Canadian Open winner. I think Canadian Open's not a terrible comp either. Long golf course that you can kind of hit it pretty much anywhere you want there to some element and see what he can do. So that's going to be Foxy as my outright at 84 to 1, Penge at 36 to 1, Aldrich Potgieter at 100 to 1, Toasty at 300 to 1, Nikolai Højgaard at 40 to 1, Tony Finau 80 to 1, and that is it for me in the outright market. I'll also be betting Ricky Fowler top 20 at plus 115. He was the number 1 guy in the micro model, course fit wise. He's fantastic on approach right now. He's putting fantastically. He's middle of the road to above average in driving distance. But Ricky Fowler has not had a top 5 in the last 15 months. And, I can't get behind that. But he's had every other time he tees it up, he's finishing top 20. He's just finding himself happily living in the teens, not in a teen, but in the teens. And that's where you want to be. Good decisions by Ricky Fowler, living the right lifestyle over there. So that's where I'm going this week. I'll have top 40 bets and things once those markets come out on my show tomorrow on Back 9 Bets on Mayo Media at 3 Eastern. It's going to be a solo show, one of the first ones I've done in quite a while. I had some seriously fun guests on there the last little while. So I'm going to be going solo, sharing my model the whole time round, doing giveaways to get into the Patreon there as well. Kenny Kim. Let's get into some DFS blood, sweat, and tears for this week's Houston Open. We've got Scotty Scheffler sitting at $14,800 this week. Hasn't had a top 10 in his last 3 starts. His wife is heavily pregnant. Brian Kirshner confirmed on his phone on the show last week that when he won the Amex, Meredith was there, and there was a bump for sure. And that was the Amex, which was in January. It's now mid-March. That's another 2 months. So I definitely think the expecting of baby number 2 is weighing on him. It's a definite variable that he's having to deal with. And you never know what Meredith is really going through with all this stuff. He could be having to burn the candle on both ends of his career. So $14,800 for Scotty Scheffler, who's probably going to be a dad here any minute.
Yeah, no, for me. But the thing is, you're probably going to get him at the lowest ownership we've seen him. But the problem is, at this price, you need like 3 6K guys. It's just, if it was like a signature event and the field was good, it would be a different story.
Yeah.
But it's tough, man, because the thing is, the course history is there. He's done everything but win this event. So if you think you can find some guys in the 6K range that you love, and you can add him with a couple of 7K guys and get him on a lineup, maybe in mass multi-entering, it might be worth it. I think. But I'm not going to touch him this week, and he's the only guy in the 10K range.
He's not in the 10K range. He's not in the 11K range. He's not in the 12K range or the 13K range. He's sitting closer to the 15K range, really. And hilariously, we see him at like the lower 14K range when he's been like plus 270, plus 250 to win a tournament. I'm looking right now, and the best number you can find on Scotty is plus 350. So his odds have drifted closer to us to being bettable. And they're telling us that we're not expecting him to be as sharp as he was to start the year. But the price has been ballooned to 14.8. So it's kind of like they've gone opposite directions despite being from the same company type of situation. So I would say if you're in the mood to get exposure to Scheffler, you can bet him with your New Balances at plus 350 and just mow your lawn and listen to Sirius XM and have him maybe win this tournament. Because even if he does win this tournament at 14.8, it's very difficult to find the complementary guys in a field like this with so many 9K options that we will be getting to here next. Minwoo Lee, the defending champ, 9.9. Shout out Brooklyn, 9.9. Chris Gotterup, 9.8. Sam Burns, 9.7. Brooks Koepka, 9,600. All the way down to Adam Scott at $9,000. Kenny, who are you vibing with here in the 9-0s?
I like Minwoo a lot. I always have that narrative where I worry about a guy who got their first win and they're coming back to the event where they got their first win, and they have a little bit more responsibility for the sponsors and stuff like that because they were the winner last year. The way he's playing, I'll just not worry about that narrative because he's just playing too well. The adjusted strokes gain on Data Golf, which had John Rahm as number 1 for 2026, Minwoo's number 6 in that same stat for the year. The guy's been ball striking the hell out of the ball. I love Minwoo. The only reason I didn't have him in Cornerstone is because I needed that extra $100. Okay, and that's why first cash game Cornerstone is Chris Gotterup. I love both of these guys a lot, and I needed that extra $100 to get my 7K play. Right, I didn't want to drift into the 6K. My last cash game Cornerstone is 7,000 on the dot. I really wanted him, and I wanted everyone else in the lineup. So it was either go with Minwoo and then switch up everything that I like, or go with Gotterup and keep everything else. And Gotterup is basically 1A and 1B when it comes to this 9K range. I love Gotterup. He actually comes in higher in my model. Minwoo's 3rd in my model. Gotterup's 2nd in my model. The one FOMO I have is not betting one of these guys. I went another route, but if I had a little bit more in my bankroll, or if one of these guys maybe has a mediocre first day or something like that, I might look into it because I like both of them. Gotterup I like on these courses where it's driver heavy and it's pretty straight, right? And that's what we're seeing here. Not too many dog legs here. Everything's pretty straight. Even if he misses a fairway, you don't have to worry about too much water, too many bunkers. The rough shouldn't be that high. He actually So I'm a big fan of Goddard. He'll be my first cash game cornerstone this week. My second cash game cornerstone is going to be Brooks Koepka. Talked about him, of course, in the betting segment. The iron play, the ball striking is just too good. If his putter does anything, he can win this event. I think the price is reasonable. I do like Koepka. He's going to be my second cash game cornerstone. I like Adam Scott a lot this week. I bet him number one in the model. I think his numbers go very well with what I'm looking for, and he's number one in my model for this week. Again, talked about him on a betting segment, like him. One guy I didn't bet on who I like, Kurt Kitayama, a guy who can hit the ball pretty damn far. Iron game, really strong. He's actually first in strokes gained ball striking in this field in the last 24 rounds. And he's doing so while avoiding bogeys. He's third in bogey avoidance in this field in the last 24 rounds. Long iron play, very, very strong. I like Kurt Kitayama.
Yeah, Kurt Kitayama almost won the Genesis Invitational, which isn't a terrible comp for this kind of a venue either. You know, when you come to the ball striking front, a lot of long irons. I fancy Kurt Kitayama as well. I'm actually out on Goddard, and it makes a lot of sense to me, Kenny, because he's not the greatest putter in the world, so he's going to need some love in that department. I understand he hits it 1,000,000 miles. You know, he's one of the top drivers in the field, yeah. But, you know, at $9,800, I'm not quite sure I'm going to get there this week. Again, you know, I think I probably lean towards what you got to say about Chris Goddard than what I have to say at this point, but I have to have my opinion anyway, so that is it on him. With Brooksy,
I like Minwoo better, but like I said, it was at $100. Like I needed that $100. And, you know, Chris Goddard is not a very small downfall from Minwoo.
Yeah.
It's a very small downfall from Minwoo.
I think the only difference is, I mean, Minwoo's actually been playing much better golf than Chris Goddard, in my opinion. You know, like he hasn't won this year yet, but consistently he's been a lot better in big events. Goddard really only had his first top 20 in a signature event at the Genesis, I think. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. You know, you can't play everyone. You got to pick your guys. Jake Knapp at $9,500. You know, checks 6 boxes this week. It's just one less than Minwoo. Obviously, coming back from the injury, missed the cut at the Players. It is what it is. He's one of the longest drivers. I mean, he's a winner at Mexico. You know, if we're going to comp courses here, winner at Mexico, and he is the only person not named Scotty Scheffler that is ahead of Minwoo Lee in strokes gained in 2026 in this field. So he's technically playing better than Minwoo, although, you know, there is a bit of a niggling injury there with Jake Knapp's back. We'll see what he gets up to. At $9,200, Nikolai Højgaard, I think, is due for a big, big tournament. I love what we spoke about already with the outright there. We're going to be rocking and rolling. And then Marco Penge, I think, could come in lower owned than the majority of these guys. I think Harris English is going to be very popular. Adam Scott is going to be quite popular there, along with Ricky Fowler.
You don't think Penge is going to be more popular than all of them?
He's $9,100.
He's one of the longest guys in the game, coming off a top 5.
Adam Scott can hit it as far as
on a course that relies heavily on bomb and gouge.
Adam Scott's sitting underneath him, hitting it as far as he does.
Scott would be half the ownership that Penge would be. I'm not an ownership guru. I have no idea. I'll wait until it comes out. But just my first thought was that Penge would be maybe the 3rd highest owned in the 9K range.
Well, the thing is, it's like if you're glomming onto just last week, yes. Prior to that, there hasn't been that much to get excited about from Marco.
He's got 2 top 16s in the last 3 weeks.
Right. But if you're looking at Adam Scott, we've got an 11th and a 4th as well, you know, along with that. If you're looking at Nikolai Højgaard, we've got a 6th, a 24th, a 27th. You know, we've got lots to like. Ricky Fowler is hitting the piss out of the golf ball right now. I don't know if it's going to be Brooksy's there as well, just a couple, like $500 more than him as well. I think he's going to be quite popular for Brooksy. I'm not sure I fancy the scoring situation for him. I like him at like a Valspar, where it's a major type venue. But if you're going to think he's going to win a tournament soon, you know, the putter is what's been holding him back, and you have to have your putter firing at these kind of birdie fests. It's hard to, you know, win a tournament if you're not putting well. What the hell is Sam Burns doing at $9,700 ahead of all of these other guys as well? You know, I'm out on him. He's not going to be the Statfish of the week. Very well could be, but I'm going to dive into another guy down here at the bottom that we're going to be looking at and going from there. In the 8K range, Kenny Kim, Harris English starts the top of that range and rounded out by Pearson Cootie at $8,000 flat. Where are we going here?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this range at all. I mean, the thing about Burns is it looks like, a couple of top 13s in his last 4 events. But yeah,
a lot of miscuts as well.
I thought about him for a second, but I didn't. I don't think I'm going to be able to press the trigger on him. I like Thorpe. He's my third cash game cornerstone at $8,600. Again, a guy who can bomb it out there, whose long iron play is the best part of his iron play. He had a taste of what it felt like to be in contention at the Players at a Big Boy event. I think he's going to win at some point this year. Talent levels there as a guy who came out of the PGA as the number 1 guy. I like Thorpe as my third cash game cornerstone. I think I'll go back to Ryan Gerard, who's had a good finish here in the past, who looked decent last week after a miscut. Prior to that, he was on fire. And so at this price range, I think I can get on board with a little Ryan Gerard at $8,400, especially with how good his iron play and ball striking has been.
Yeah, and prior to getting to Florida, he was starting to putt really, really well out on the West Coast. So maybe he also took the Valspar off. So I think he has played he took the Valspar off. He played 5 straight before that, and then 3 after taking a break before that. So he's played a lot of golf in the last little while. I think it's good to see him kind of bouncing back here. I love Michael Thorbjornsson with you too, Kenny. I was almost going to bet him this week as well, but went elsewhere. I think Ryan Gerard makes a lot of sense. Pearson Cootie is probably going to be my Statfish of the week. I'm just kidding. It's going to be Jason Day. I'm going with Jason Day as my Statfish. I prefer Jason Day. He's one of the best in the field when it comes to short game around the greens. If you're chipping your face off this week, there's only 3 par 5s. You need to be on the green putting for birdie. Jason Day's number 1 strength is saving par kind of thing. And I think he's just not going to give you the upside you're looking for. No one in the $8,000 and above range, apart from Brooks, checks any box, checks no boxes. And Brooks is obviously lacking sample size here and some really bad golf to start the year. So that's going to be why I'm not going with Brooksy. I think Jason Day makes a lot of sense from a Statfish situation. A tough situation, yeah. Usually I'm going with a no box checker. They're all checking boxes this week. So we'll see how it goes with Jason Day. I'm not overly ambitious. We're fishing with a small worm this week on the Jason Day Statfish of the week. I don't know. And the fun thing about this 8K range, Kenny, is this where your second click's going to come if you're backing Scotty Scheffler at 14.8. And this 8K range is nasty. So Scheffler's ownership could be very, very, very low this week, which is hilarious. This was the week they could have probably made him 13.8, but who the hell knows? In the $7,000 range, we've got Sam Stevens, Taylor Pendrith, Alex Smalley, rounded up with a Ryan Fox in the middle of the range there, and all the way down to Sir Durshan, Yelamaraju at $7,200. Kenny Kim, what's happening in the 7s?
I'm going to start at the bottom and go up. My final cash game cornerstone is Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson. Makes a lot of cuts, right? He's going to be my lowest price guy in my cash lineup. He's made every cut this year, right? He's not short. He's not overly long, but he's not short. His iron play is well above average, and he's really good with his long irons. I think in the last 24 rounds, when it comes to proximity from 175 to 200, I think he's 25th in this field, and from 200 plus, he's 5th in this field. That's both from the fairway. And the rough is basically, if it is that 1.5 inches, it's not going to be that bad, So I really do like Nørgaard Peterson as my final cash game cornerstone. So my cash game cornerstones for this week are going to be Chris Gotterup at 9,800, Brooks Koepka at 9,600, Michael Thorbjornsson at 8,600, and RNP at 7,000. I am filling out the rest. It leaves exactly 15,000 left to fill it out. I'm filling it out with Gary Woodland, who we talked about on the show, runner-up here in the betting segment, runner-up here last year. Can nuke it all, is playing pretty good after what we saw last week. He's in the lineup, and so is Tony Finau. Finau's in the lineup as well. at $7,600. So those are the guys I like for cash. Now, when it comes to my hustler play of the week, no music this week since Mike's not here. I'm going back to the well. Michael Brennan was my hustler play of the week last week. He shit the bed. He missed the cut. Now, if you look at the way that he played last week, he was +7 after 14 holes last week and finished +3 in his last 22 holes or something like that. I'm sorry, he finished minus overall. So he was -3 in his last 22 holes. He got up to +2. So he was -4. I think he bogeyed something on the snake pit that made him miss the cut. He almost made the cut after being at +7 after 14 holes. So obviously he found something in those last 20 holes. We've seen Jaeger, who won here before in the past, play well in Utah, right? This is a guy who can bomb it, whose long irons are good, and he can putt. I'm going back to the well with Michael Brennan at 7,200 as my hustler play of the week. Other guys that I'll be looking at, don't know if I'm going to play, Jordan Smith, Ryan Fox, Ricky Castillo, Jaeger, and Sam Stevens. Those are guys that are on my list. I got to do a little bit more work, a little bit more research to see, but those are the other guys that sort of popped up that I thought about outside of the ones that I just spoke of.
Yeah. This is a range where you can easily just bypass the 8Ks and kind of dive into these guys in the 7s, because there's a lot of them that could actually be in the 8s and we wouldn't bat an eye. Guys like Sahith Theegala, Patrick Rogers. Sahith has actually been playing fantastic golf this year. He just he just forgot how to putt and chip at the Valspar. It happens. Guys, geniuses have their weak spots, and he showed that this week at the Valspar. He's been playing fantastic. He's made a cut in every single start apart from the Valspar last week, and he's also one of these guys that doesn't necessarily find the fairway as much as you would like, can fill it up with the putter, can get hot in that department. I'm looking at Sahith Theegala. Sam Stevens is somebody that can absolutely be played at a driver-heavy golf course at $7,900, ranks 20th in the model year in the 7K range, along with Alex Smalley, who's finished 4th year back when it was playing more difficult. Since it's had to get easy, he's actually missed the cuts in the easy conditions. So we'll see how Alex Smalley can handle that, but he's been playing some good golf this year as well, has only missed one cut this year, $7,800. Ryan Fox at $7,400, Gary Woodland, Sadurshan Yalamiraju, all going to be looking. I've changed my whole aspect, Kenny. I've gone from playing the 10 lineups like every week with the 5 entry max, 50 cent, 150 max this week. I'm using an optimizer. I'm changing some shit up. I feel like my strength is finding these weird nuggets in the 6K range and things like that. And then in these big contests, you can, leverage those guys a little more than just 5 or 10 entries every single week. So changing it up, I'm going to see how it goes. There's 83,000 people in the contest, but you get 150 lineups. So you got to just shoot your shot. You can win $4,000 if you take that one home. It would be incredible to do that, but I think you can also manage your bankroll a bit better in those big type situations. You're going to get min cashed out of a situation, but you're not going to lose all your money every single week because you're going to have some guys cashing at least. So that's my thought. We'll see how it goes. RNP is RIP for me. God damn it, Kenny. I've lost so much money on this guy this year. I keep betting him round leader. I keep betting him top 20s. So he's now yours. He's bloody. He's beaten.
I just want him to make the cut.
He's going to do good for you, I think.
I just want to.
I'm off of him now.
Right? I mean, as the cheapest guy, that's why I like. I'm not betting him or anything. I don't expect like a top 10 from him or anything like that. I just want him to be my cheapest guy, make the cut. Right? That's what I'm looking for him.
There's going to be some bad stigma on ADDC. We've got RNP and ADDC in the same situation over here. He plays really, really slow golf, but, finished 26th last week and plays easy course as well. $7,100, hits it quite far. We'll see what he can do. Diving into the $6,000 range, Kenneth Kim, what you doing?
Yeah, I like Yesser Svensson comes up 6 in my model. I don't know. He always comes up high in my model. I don't think he's any good, but he always just comes up crazy high in my model. So I'll take a look at him. He's 6 when it comes down to it. The iron game has been solid. Ball striking, he's 8th in the field in the last 24 rounds. But he's like 130th in putting. That's what it comes down to with him. He's like the poor, the homeless man, Brooks Koepka, basically, is the way he's been playing this season so far. Not even the poor man's Brooks Koepka, the homeless man's Brooks Koepka. And so, I might take a look at him. We'll see. Lipsky, after his performance last week, impressed me. I'll go back to him to see if he can ride the Mo. All right. David Ford is interesting with his ball striking here. Toasty, of course, that we talked about earlier in the show.
Kenny, Mathieu Pavon is $6,600 and is starting to play some good golf again. The winner of the Farmers.
He is.
Finished 11th last week, 27th at the Amex, 38th at the Farmers again. He's only missed 2 cuts this year in 6 starts. Starting to find his groove. Plays better golf in easy scoring conditions. It's the only area of his game he actually gains strokes. He loses strokes in all the other areas there in medium, hard, and hellish conditions. Johnny Kiefer played really good golf to begin the year and has kind of lost his groove a little bit, but he's also one of these Korn Ferry Tour guys. I like the Korn Ferry guys on this kind of a venue because they used to nuking it out there and just flipping wedges in, mid irons, whatever. The long hitters in particular, making tons of birdies on these kind of courses. I think, Johnny Kiefer is definitely one of those. You mentioned David Ford, did you say? At $6,700. I like him. Some other names, I think, down at the bottom here. I'm going to take a gamble on Neil Shipley at $6,300. He's just too good of a golfer to be playing as bad as he is right now. He thrives in easy conditions as well. KFT guy, he's fantastic off the tee. Every other area of his game has been total shit, but I can expect him to take care of business there. Pontus Nile Home, creative player at $6,200.
Sounds like the guy who killed Jesus.
What? Yeah, Pontus Pilot.
Sounds like the guy who killed Jesus.
Pontus Nile Home, Pontus. Top one of the top drivers in distance over here. Again, $6,200. He hasn't made a cut this year, I don't think so. He is $6,200 in a field like this. Hank Lebioda, $6,300, led the Valspar in approach last week. You never know what happens. He's not necessarily.
He holed out like twice. Didn't he hold out twice though from approach?
I don't know.
That probably helped.
It probably did, but that's 2 strokes. Yeah. Probably that's added to that. If he didn't hold out, he's still going to gain like half a stroke on each of those. So let's call it 1 stroke. Still a very good iron performance, Kenny. Shut up in the chair over there with my guy Hank Lebioda. We don't take slander on this man's name. We like the approach play after last week.
I like Hank the Tank. I'm not going to play him.
Again,
I'm not going to play him, but I like him.
Yeah, I'm just rattling off a couple super random guys that I'll be firing off in the 6s here for my 150 lineups. Christo Lamprax?
Yeah, with my 4 lineups, I usually try and say who I'm going to play. I think there's a lot of weeks where I haven't played a single 6K.
Right.
Happens a lot.
That's the thing.
Right, where I don't play a single 6K guy because I'm only making 4 lineups. I don't have to reach and stretch or anything, to try and find people. So that's why I'll go over my 3 or 4 that I think about, but I don't play these guys very often.
Well, you're playing in 4 lineups. I'm not going to put Christo Lampracht in 25% of my lineups. Like when you're playing 150, you can put him in 5, which is only 3%. So when you're playing such limited amount of lineups, the 6K range is not where you want to be living. You want to be playing in the balanced world and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and find a different avenue. This is why we just spoke about this a little bit ago. Davis Chatfield at $6,100 just made the cut as well. Last week finished 40th. So does a lot of good stuff if we're looking for that kind of stuff there. One and done, Kenny? Where are you leaning for your one and done?
I'm going to look at Minwoo, Adam Scott, Finau, and Woodland.
Okay. Minwoo would be for your slider international guy kind of thing. Adam Scott as well, 2 Australians. So we'll see how that goes. I think I'm going to go with Nikolai Højgaard this week. See what he can do for us. He's been pretty solid this year. Again, top 20s don't get you any money. You need high-end finishes, but we've got 1 6th place finish already this week. Tempted to go Jake Knapp's route, but I want to see a bit more from him after, the back injury there. So we'll see how it goes. JT last week let me down quite poorly. I thought he would play a bit better than he did, but the water finally fell out the bucket for him. So it is what it is. All right, friends. Thank you to Dayden, our producer. Shout out to producer Mike, who's out in the Caymans taking photos of naked models. So, things are going good for him. He hasn't told his wife about that. With his wife. His wife might even be in the... No, I'm just joking. We're not going to put things like that under the sun. We really appreciate all the producers here on Mayo Media. Everybody are rock stars. Don't forget to use code FGD when signing up at DraftKings when you're doing that as a first-time depositor. Find me at The Model Maniac on X. Go grab my Model Maniac Patreon. Use code Houston26 for 50% off your first month for all the tools that you'll see on the screen. And Kenny Kim, get us the hell out of here, brother.
Find me on X at KendoVT. My final betting card will be there. Any live ads, any cool tidbits about golf, and then some random ass shit will be on the feed. So just make sure you go follow me at KendoVT. Should be a fun week. I really want to stop so I can read this article, because how the fuck did a guy with no arms and no legs shoot somebody? And how is he a professional cornhole player? How? I'm about to find out. Let's win some motherfucking money. DGen Nation.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping